All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe I am up and running right now. Hopefully. Anyways, a while ago, um, I did a video on the Cabal and kind of gave my thoughts about it, about Sumnus Dreadwood, and the workings by them, and kind of just lightly touched upon the ritual workings and everything about them that has been spoken about by people like Telia Curtis, aka Petrova, VK Jahannam, and a few others that really have nothing more than negative things to say about the Cabal, and which basically caught my interest because I'm always up for learning new things. I'm always up for delving into new material. So about 6 months ago, I ended up going out and on Amazon, I picked up this book. The left hand path. The left hand Cabal Grimoire of Walking in Darkness. Okay, and I found it. I found it to be very, very interesting, but also kind of odd. I wouldn't say odd. It was more of the fact that it was something new. You're dealing with new names. You're dealing with a whole new system of magical practice. Okay. The second book, after I completed that one, I went out and got The Eye of the Oracle. And this one here, I begun reading again along with just about every one of these books. And this one here, The Eye of the Oracle, the Cabal Grimoire of Psychic Magic. Now, this one here basically threw me off a little bit, but after reading it roughly about 2 to 3 times, I began to understand where they were coming from. Um, the next book that I went out and got was this one here, the Black Scriptures book. Okay. This book I really liked because it spoke to me personally, and I didn't understand why. Because every so often you come across a book or some form of grimoire that speaks to you directly. And I really didn't understand at the time. And this was probably about 4 or 5 months ago that I got this book. Okay. I didn't really understand then why it was speaking to me, but now I do. And I'll get into that in a few minutes. The next book that I got was this one here, and it's called Charnel Whispers, Mastery of Necromancy, Death, and Undeath. Right here. Now, this book here really spoke to me, and as I was going through chapter 1 of this book, basically near the end of it, and I'm going to get into this real fast here. It's under the Necromancer, and it starts on page 14 and then goes to if I can get here, page 29. Now, I want to read something real fast from here. Book 1, The Necromancer. Are you able to identify your place in the cosmos? Are you able to identify your purpose for practicing the necromantic arts? Is the Karakian death meditation a natural state to enter into swiftly? Can you read not only your own vibrations and energies of blood and soul, but those of others, as well as their basic memories? Do you possess the necessary physical, mental, and spiritual faculties to begin performing the necromantic arts? Now, keep in mind, this is not my first journey into necromancy. I've studied and practiced the works by sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer. I've done my own research into the history of necromancy, dating back about 1,000 years, through the three spellings: N-E, N-I, and N-Y, just for to name a couple, with the first two letters of necromancy, and how it changed over the last 1,000 years. And I was going over this stuff, and it's like, okay, this stuff kind of reminds me of Sorceress Nick, Cagliostro's blood sorcery, okay, but also in a state of vampiric magic, okay, such as sucking the life out of somebody or giving life back. The best description I can give of that would be the Wraith from Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, rather. And when John and the Wraith were sitting there, and he kept taking from John, and then all of a sudden giving back at the very end, and kind of made him look a little bit younger. Okay, prime example of vampiric sorcery. Now, Anton Zandelavay wrote that psychic vampires are there just to take and take and take. They're not worth your time. Which actually, both of these analogies do speak true to necromancy. But most importantly, this book here, Charnel Whispers, really started speaking to me. It really started interesting me to the point where I delved in and started taking notes, and I started taking pointers off of it and started doing my own rituals through it. But I've also gone through Lucien Rafacal's necromancy book, and a lot of his work really speaks to the history and the practice of necromancy. Even the Bible itself speaks of necromancy, okay? But it's more of a small proverb when dealing with the Witch of Endor, okay? And what was interesting about that passage, and through Christian Day's Book of the Dead, but also these other ones. Hey, Nick, welcome to the party. And I'm wondering if I can't get this thing out here a little bit more so I can actually see it. Maybe if I do this. And the Aquarian Dragon's on. Hey, what's going on, my friend? But anyways, after I got done reading all these books and I got into Charnel Whispers and, getting into the Cabal and all these workings, I started buying the other books as well. Now, the other book that I bought, the next book I got, is called The Rites of the 13 Tongues, The Intimate Sojourn into the Cabal, basically. And it looks like this. Okay. And this one here really looked like nothing more than a book of sorcery, of invocations, evocations, dealing with spells and stuff like that, ritual type things. And that just goes to show you that you really need to pay more attention to what's inside of the book instead of, just saying, okay, look at the book, judge it by its cover. No. You really got to delve into the books and really start taking notes and comparing them. So I started doing that with this one, drawing the sigils and everything out of these books is a lot harder than it looks. But after talking with Marcus and a few others, it came clear that you really don't have to be precise with the workings. Okay, you don't have to be precise with the actual sigil being perfect. It's not like working with the goetic demons from the Solomantic practices. The clavicle of Solomon, for an example, the Goetia, where you have to draw it a certain way, and then with the circles and everything. You really don't have to do that here. You don't have to be specific within your skills, which is something I like because I haven't really been drawing much since I broke my thumb. And that really sucked. But because I normally drew, cars and you name it with my right hand, and then when that kind of fucked that up, so I had to go to my left. Yeah, it's a good thing I'm ambidextrous. That's all I gotta say. But but anyways, the next book that I bought was The Spheres of Devastation and Unchained Sorcery of the Realms. Okay. This book explains the actual workings, the actual realms themselves, the different planes of existence. And I really liked that book. I really liked how it was spelled out. It's really understand, so how should I say this? It's so dubbed down, a monkey could understand it, you know, and whereas these other books are very complex. They're using the full rights, or just about almost the full rights. They're dealing with a lot of truth and a lot of different aspects. And I'll get into that in just a few minutes as well. And then finally, the last book that I bought was Profane Seals, a compendium of vile sigil magic, volume 1. And it looks like this. Now, this book really, really spoke to me. It speaks of the towers, it speaks of the lords, the overseers, the different beings from the courts, to the 13 Blighton lords, to the towers, different like the dark sirens, pain, torment, you name it. It's got it all just in this book alone. And this book here, I have been reading now for about 2 weeks. It's the last book that I got, and I've had it now for just about a month now, and I'm just now finally delving into it on a professional level. A very I wouldn't call it professional level, because professionalism means I've done this before. This particular art, this particular practice is new to me. I've only been studying it now for about 6-7 months on my own. And the thing about this book here is it's not for beginners. It really is not. Even though you see the sigils in a blown up, portion, I guess you could say proportion, that you can actually draw the lines out, get every detail as close to perfect as possible. But it also talks about what it belongs to and where they're from. Some of them even have a phrase that goes along with them. So if you're going to get into this book, I would recommend first starting with these others and save this one for last. And that I strongly, strongly encourage you to do. Now, as I get into these books, I started picking up things. I started comparing them to other sources of information. And I actually posted on this in a group that Marcus runs. And a guy came back and said, "What? You can't do that. You can't, share, compare to other systems, because those are all lies. They don't have a shred of truth in them," type thing. And it's like, how do you know without studying it? You know what I'm saying? But I understand where they're coming from with this type of information, because number one, there are, as Marcus once told me, there is similarities between just about every system of magic out there. But there are also lies. There are also people who have written books, written grimoires, that really don't have a grasp on what they're practicing or what they're trying to preach within their books. So in that case, I do understand why it was warned not to compare them with other compendiums. Like say Santa Maria, voodooism, Satanism, occultism in general. I can actually understand that now, because after 6, 7 months of studying the cabal workings, practicing just a few handfuls, I could count the rituals on one hand that I've done over the last 2 months. Okay, after extensive research, after extensive searching for the materials, making sure that everything is right, everything is is prepared properly. And I can tell you, hey Lilith, what's going on? Let me just there we go. Kind of just bring this over a little bit here so I can actually see. Um, Let me just bring it back just. Nope. All right, there we go. Let me just bring that over just a little. Nope, too far. Um, Screen's just a little bit big, so I'm trying to see it. There we go. Yeah, I'll have to do for now. But anyways, um, so now I have a full understanding of where they're coming from and where these workings are coming from because of where this is. And like I said, I've done at least 5 rituals so far out of these books, and I've actually taken Marcus's wisdom. He basically told me to do a ritual because Zazazel was speaking to me. I really connected with Zazazel and the necromantic arts and that of Karaktis and the Karaktian magics. And it was like, wow, okay. So how do you suppose doing this? And he said, just do a ritual, open yourself up type thing. So I did. And the first time I got an image of a being that I didn't quite understand because there was like several different outlooks of him that of this being that kind of came into focus in full color. Whereas the second time it was more of a presence. And then again tonight, this morning when I was doing a meditative thing after yesterday studying the difference between the meditations and everything from the death, the Karakti's death meditation versus the void meditation, and you kind of just get into this, and it's really potent stuff. But instead today, I took the phrase, and instead of just speaking the phrase repeatedly, I did it every so often, but I turned it more into a mantra. And I noticed almost immediately the my entire altar room. It was like there was this massive presence that just appeared out of nowhere. There was no airflow. There was no. It was like the air was still, stillborn. It was like it was. How should I say this? It was like it was like the presence that I had felt had literally taken form of a peaceful resolution, almost like being at death's door. Marcus also suggested that I go to a cemetery and take in the views, the smell, the scent, open up my senses and get a sense of death magic, the death essences of Klepothic magic, basically, which is Da'ath magic, D-A''ATH. And Ariok actually touches on that within a little bit within the Satanism, the 5 books of philosophy. And then you have Asher Shadim that really touches on death magics and everything, within the grimoire of Asher Shadim. and I really liked that one too. But unfortunately, that was not part of the Cabal, at least as far as I know. But I started learning everything the more I was delving in over the last few weeks, and I started wanting to do these rituals and wanting to get into them, and the feelings and the sensations and the presences and of the connections really came over powerful. You know, one ritual that I did, which I recommended to my brother Brian Snelling because he too is interested in the system of the Cabal, and so I ended up going out and getting him a altar coin made of pure silver. And the item in question was an item of protection, and it was very simple to do. It was spelled out in the book, so I ended up doing that myself. And I never recommend anything that I don't practice personally. Okay. So when I got into doing this one ritual, this first ritual, I thought it would be keen, to begin with some form of protection, especially since, in the Cabal magics, I am a newbie. I'm a noob in this type of magic structure. So I really thought, it may be wise to do something, start out with some form of protection. And since I did this item of protection, a lot of the drama, a lot of the chaos that was in my life before has just dissipated. I mean, 100% gone. That was Harley that just walked across me, by the way. And she hasn't been feeling good, so I'm kind of just letting her be for now. But, anyways, this particular ritual was very quick. It was dead on. It happened exactly the way it said in the book. And like I said, I've had no drama, no chaos in my life. It is like whatever that particular thing was supposed to ward off, it is doing its job 150%. It is the most potent form of personal protection, and I carry it on me at all times. At work, at just walking around the woods or walking in the mall, it doesn't matter. It's on my person. It's on my physical person. And no, it's not this or these. Okay. And I'm not going to show you what it is either, because I want this to be between me and the blatant lords themselves, the 13 blatant lords. So then I started doing other types of rituals. After I started, I delved into the rituals and got into some of these other researches. I started studying the differences of the meditations. I started studying the towers, and I started. A sec, your Lilith. It literally depends, Lilith, on what path really speaks to you, because as a witch, as a sorcerer, as a Satanist, this system is not where you can get into and just this system is not like where you can delve into it like picking up a book by Anne Mora on green witchcraft and just start practicing. It's not like you can go underneath, say, Alistair Natch and just start practicing theistic Satanism, Lilith. These books are unique. So, to answer your question, the first one that I would recommend for you to get into would be the Black Scriptures. Now, personally, if it was me, for you, I would recommend the left hand, this one here. Okay? right here, this is the one that I would recommend for you, because to start out with, before going into the Black Scriptures, and then the Eye of the Oracle. And the reason for that is because of the fact that you want to start at the beginning. You really want to get a firm grasp of who the lords are, who who's a member of the court, who's a member of what tower. So the left hand, and then the Black Scriptures. Okay. The Eye of the Oracle. Chanel Whispers. Actually, I would recommend this one before the Eye of the Oracle, to be precise. And then I would recommend getting into Spheres of Devastation, because of the fact that that really tells you about the different planes of existence. And that's before you get into the Eye of the Oracle, the Rites of the 13 Tongue, and Profane Seals. Okay. That's what I would recommend to you, Lilith. Namely because of the fact that these are not like other systems. These are far beyond other systems. In the past, I've talked about fakes and real, the real practitioners versus the fakes, the dabblers. This is not a system that you want to dabble in, okay? This is not one where it's like Satanism, where you can just say, hey, I'm putting on the bad guy badge. Okay, it's not a system where you can have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. This is a type of path working that you're either all in or you're all out. Okay, and that's just from what I've witnessed firsthand. It is that potent. It is that profane when it comes to the rituals, the rites. Okay, it is that powerful. Okay, it is not to be taken lightly. It is not to be taken as a game or a joke. When you start getting into this, you'll understand what I mean, because you consider, Brian and myself, we've been dealing with the Sigil aspect. We've been doing heavy. I'm talking extremely heavy amounts of research, dedication of studying, and trying to gain a form of a grasp and wrap this stuff around our heads, because even as somebody that's more experienced on a lot of different ways within the occult, even I have to tell you that even I have slowed down just for this particular working, because of the fact it's that powerful, it's that potent. I've never experienced anything this close to power as much as this. Now, I've worked with the Goetia. I've worked with numerous different systems, from voodooism, hoodooism, Santa Morte, La Santa Morte, Santeria, Santa Palo Mayombe, Quimbanda. And I've never gotten into Umbanda, but I understand it's similar to Quimbanda. I've studied Druidism, okay, herbalism, alchemy, vampiric, gothic, you name it. I've studied it. I've practiced it. I've lived it, including the 7 years that I spent in Christianity becoming a minister. Okay. It was an easier way to do it. And I gave a minister 3 years of my life, with the understanding that I kept all the occult stuff off premises. I gave him my word. I gave him the three years, and he recommended me for the ministry. So I went out and I became a minister. I became an ordained minister, and I came back to Maine yet again, this time as an ordained minister. And I've been here now since 2010, 2011 area. And I set up my order, the Order of the Blackthorn, in 2013, and it's now been 5 years that it's been going strong. It's got a good reputation. It's all about knowledge. It's all about the arts, and it gives references and all that stuff. Now, this stuff here is completely different from the Cabal, and I'll tell you why. There are so many different grimoires out there that tell you how to deal with demons, how to align yourself with the forces of darkness. For an example, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Scroll of Amram, it talks about the war, the duality of warfare between Belial and Michael. Okay. Michael, the archangel, is the leader of the sons and daughters of light, who wage war against the sons and daughters of darkness led by Belial. Okay. So when we get into grimoires like, say, the Grand Grimoire, the Grimoire of Vernum, the Clavicle of Solomon, getting into the Black Raven, also known as the threefold coercion of hell, by Dr. Faust, who made a Faustian deal back in the 15th century. We get into the Constitution of Pope Honorius. Why is it these grimoires use the names of power? Okay, even the Grimoire of Armadale uses the names of power. Okay, where you're calling on the Judo-Christian names such as Elohim, Yazad, Jehovah. Okay, why not Allah, which is Islamic? They purposely left this system out, but they stuck with Judaism. They stuck with Christianity and Catholicism. Okay, they kept these systems and they created the names of power. So why is it they utilize these? The answer is because they're corrupted through the Judeo-Christian systems. Most of these individuals, if you look back at their lives and do your research into them, you will find that they were actually Christian monks. They were either monks or they were priests, okay, dealing with the Vatican, okay. Now, why do you suppose that was? Because back in those days, if you do your homework and you do your research right, you'll understand that the modern common folk didn't know how to read. They didn't even know how to write most of the time. Where these scriptures and these books were being distributed. Okay? That's why so many people fell prey to the Judeo-Christian society. These monks, such as, say, for example, the one that corrupted, massacred the nuns, for an example, prime example. Why was it that St. Peter, back in the day, wanted to be crucified on a inverted cross, okay, rather than on a crucifix like Jesus Christ did? The answer is because he didn't feel worthy to die in the same manner as his God. Okay? So again, these things are tied in with Judeo-Christianity. Okay? The Judeo-Christian societies. This is why so many people can't get into them. This is why they're not getting the results that they want. Because a lot of the time, they don't realize that if you get rid of these names, if you look at what they're saying, stand in a circle of protection. Wiccans and pagans preach this, to be in the circle of protection. It is not a circle of protection. It is a circle of power. Okay? Power to manifest things. Power is in geometry, the shapes. Okay? I've talked about the triangle. Okay? E.A. Koenig speaks on the triangle of evocation. Okay? Number one, the triangle with the point facing up is the phallus. Okay? The male, the god. Okay? Aspect. Whereas down, okay, is the vulva, the uterus, the feminine divine. Okay, so you see where the shapes take on different manifestations. Raymond Buckland, in his book Science, was it Science, Sigils, and Omens, really touches on this over the witchcraft aspects, which is in the later part of the book. Okay, so you really do have to read down through all the systems and everything and kind of gain that grasp. But when you get into geometric shapes, you'll see why the triangle is a major source of necromantic power, why it was incorporated into necromancy, and why blood sorcery is involved, why um, vampiric aspects were involved. Okay, just over the last century, there has been 3 evolutions just on necromancy alone. Before that, it was tied in with shamanism, meaning herbalism. You go back even further, you're going to see where it's tied into alchemy. Okay, alchemical sequences of change, turning gold into lead or lead into gold. Okay, you're going to see this stuff. So when dealing with the Cabal, this is a whole nother system. It is actually based off things that work. It's based off, well, in the quote by a Christian, truth. It is the light, the truth, and the way, so to speak. Now, I'm not comparing the Cabal to the Christians. I'm just using that phrase so you understand. Now, a gentleman on one of the posts that I put in stated the Cabal speaks truth. It is built off truth because these are true sorcerers and sorceresses who have come together to literally practice the magic in its purest sense. Now, how do you know what the truest sense is? The answer is quite simple. And I'm just going to see. Okay. Just seeing what else you wrote, Lilith. Because it's just after your name, I see one letter of what you posted or commented on, and then the rest is basically off into oblivion somewhere. So I have to move the screen over. But my point is this, okay? Even through my own studies of the Cabal system, going back into the Blighten Lords, going back into the different hells, okay? In one book, it talks about the hells, as in plural, hells, okay? Apostrophe S type thing. Now, it got me thinking because in Buddhism, they believe in multiple hells, specifically that of Asia, okay? In Asian Buddhism, they believe in multiple hells, okay? Which is very fascinating. Anybody who's been obsessed with, say, Bruce Lee, the martial artist, okay, will tell you that a lot of these videos, like, say, what was it, Enter the Dragon, or something starring the guy that played Mowgli, or in the Jungle Book, I can't remember the guy's name offhand, or the name of that specific book. But the way he put it was, it's like water. It flows naturally. Magic is magic. It's not black or white. It's not good or evil. It is what you, as the practitioner, uses it for. But when we look at this specific movie reference here, and I'm going to use this as a reference, is the guy that played Bruce Lee in this movie. He, from a child's perspective, when you go into where all these sculptures, all these beings, can be compared to a demon of some sort, okay? And it's said that when you look upon them, and the one that frightens you the most, that is the personal demon that you have to defeat in your lifetime, okay? And this is an Asian belief system, by the way. But what's interesting about it is throughout this entire movie, he kept having this encounter with a specific demon. He kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it right up until the day he died. Okay. So you see the reference on multiple hells and how it relates to Buddhism, how it relates to the Cabal. Okay. So you're seeing that similarity. Now, the one thing I've noticed and the one thing that was told to me from this group that I'm in is you're going to come across similarities. Doing some of these chants reminds me a lot of speaking in Enochian. Okay. Literally Enochian. Between that and the Hellgate system. Okay. But mostly Enochian, which is celestial. Okay. It is the angelic tongue. And speaking in some of these sayings, these incantations, really, really speaks to me in that way. It kind of relates to Enochian, the Enochian keys. Nick, which right are you referring to? The one on that I spoke of the protection? I just happened to notice you had posted up here. Oh, come on. There we go. Sorry about that. Facebook decided to come on here. I'm on my bad computers, so I'm surprised it hasn't, made that little glitch thing yet. I noticed earlier when you and I were talking, Lilith, that it kind of lost the signal. But anyways, while I'm waiting on Nick here, the rights and everything in these books are very potent. So you do want to start at the beginning. You do want to do your own homework. You are going to see similarities, but you're also going to be noticing things, specifically huge changes in your life. For an example, in my life, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff over the last couple of years. In fact, a few things over the years since I came online and started teaching professionally on and giving lectures and stuff like that. I've noticed I've developed a few leeches that have nothing good to say about me, which being a public figure, that kind of happens. But then you got people who just want to spread rumors about you. Now, what I find interesting is since I did this one ritual for protection, it's not like the Wheel of Hecate from Jason Miller's book, Protection and Reversal Magics. Okay. This particular one, as soon as I did that, it took maybe 24 to 48 hours. And then you kind of look back after a month and it's like, hello, where'd all these negative people go? Where did all these attacking foes go? You know what I'm saying? They're just gone. I've been getting phone calls, harassing phone calls from phone companies and from a lot of different things. Type people pretending to be something. I got people who come to me claiming to do things or wanting to be in something, only to be just plain disappear. This protection right with this item of pure silver is 100% potent. It is something that I put my weight behind. It is something that I recommend heavily for those of you who are wanting to get into the Cabal, wanting to get into just studying on a serious basis. Okay. And okay. I can't remember which book that was out of. I want to say it was out of, I think it was I want to say it was the Black Scriptures, the Eye of the Oracle, or Charnel Whispers. It was one of them. But I'll go back in and I'll get that for you, and then I'll I'll type it on here, Nick. All right. But give me just a moment. I'm being summoned, which means my son and his mother's home. So I'll be right back. Out. Come on. Get your ass out of the window. All right. I am back. Turns out they weren't here. But anyways, I want to say it was this one here. Yeah, it was the rights of the 13th tongue. I think. Let me just get in here real fast. No, wasn't that one. Ah, okay. Here it is, Nick. It is in the left-hand path. I was wrong. It was the left-hand path where it spoke on that. All right. So that's where you'll find it. So I mean, like I said, you really don't want to dabble in this. You really want to get into it on a professional level. You really want to commit yourself 100% to the Cabal and really get into the actual workings. Learn the history of it. Get into the towers. Get into what speaks to you on a personal level. You know, for me, I went with the Tower of Atropy. I went with the Tower of Crescent and the Tower of Umbra. You know, these three towers spoke to me directly. There were a couple more, but I'm going to stick with these three for right now and really delve into the necromantic arts on a professional level. Get into the specific towers, aligning myself with the energies and the beings of those locations, such as Caractes, the Hells, and Zazazo. And I'll keep you updated on that. All right. But for now, I'm going to end this. I've got some more videos that I'm planning on doing down the road here today. And I think that I may just do one more video and just combine them. But as for this is what I've been up to for the last few weeks. You know, delving heavily into it, studying, researching, writing, you know, taking a lot of notes, and performing a few rituals out of it. Like I said, 5 is all I've done so far. I can count them on one hand. So I hope you do. Basically, Lilith, you can go to, say for an example, azurgreen.net and order the altar coin through them. It's like $5. It's like $2, $3, $5 area. I think to have it shipped to me was like probably about $10 and some odd cents. So, I mean, it wasn't that expensive. It was actually quite cheap. But then you have to consecrate it and really bless it. And then you do the ritual itself once it's been properly consecrated. All right. But as for that, I would heed caution when delving into the Cabal because this is, like I said, far beyond any type of magic that I've ever practiced. And I do concur with what Marcus has said. I do concur with Sumner Stredwood. And most importantly, those who have given wise counsel within the group that I'm in, along with my brother Brian, who has actually given advice and kind of just helped us understand things. It really helps, and you really do want to humble yourself, especially when dealing with the blatant lords and everything, because in this sense, you're not only a teacher, but you're also a guide. More or less, you are the student, no matter what, and like yesterday, I had posted in the group on the meditations because I had come across in the Black Scripture where it's talking about the correcting and death meditation, and it said it was what was it? No, I actually came across that in Chanel Whispers, and it said that it was in the Black Scriptures book. So I went into the Black Scriptures book and I was tearing that book apart, just looking for it, and it was driving me nuts because I couldn't find it. So, and I'm sitting there taking down notes. Okay, this is the name of the meditation, the one that I'm seeking. This is the one that, these are the ones that I found, what book they're in, what page they're in. And it's like, where the hell is this goddamn thing? It was driving me nuts. So I finally posted in the group and I said, hey, I've been studying heavily on this, and it's driving me nuts. I said, hey, where it says it's in this book. I even showed pictures of the book of these meditations. And I said, where is this in this book? Well, it turned out to be the second void meditation on page 76. And it was funny because of the fact that, the guy that was helping me out, and I was sitting there trying to figure it out. And ironically, what was ironic about this is he had the exact same books already right by him. And so he says, hold on for just a minute, I'll get into it. And next thing I know, he's saying there, yeah, you're right. It was the second one. It was the second void meditation that is the name of the Karakti's death meditation. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Seriously? I spent 3.5 hours looking for this specific meditation out of this book, and it had nothing to do with the Karaktis at all. Because when you're looking for it, and it specifically says Karaktian death meditation. Okay. And it clearly says that it can be found in the Black Scriptures. You're expecting something that is written, the name of it being Karaktian death meditation. And it's full working. Nope, not so. So Sumner Stredwood, nice one. That's all I gotta say. You literally, with this writing, you just did that complete flip on me, just going through those things, and it just blew my mind. But hey, at least you kept it interesting. That's all I gotta say, and I really appreciate that because I do like things that are interesting and keep things going. So, as I said, really delve into these books, starting with the first ones, and before getting into any actual rituals, really get into them and practice. Get a firm grasp on them. No, I haven't, Nick. I have not done any packs yet, but I am preparing to do so down the road. I don't have all the material that I need right now, so I've got to I gotta find them and then bring them in before I can do that. And I do have one that is going to be a good size one, from what I can tell. Completely dedicating myself to the particular entity and getting into the actual studying as an apprentice of that entity. And I really want to do. I really want to take my time with this because as I said, I overlooked a couple of things, and it was that complete flip. And you're going to see that in these books. So really you got to really slow it down and pay close attention before you can do anything. And like I said, I'm just taking it one step at a time. I've been researching and studying these books now for about 6 months, 7 months. And I've only performed a handful of rites so far. I'm getting into the towers. Really, I broke them down into the three main ones that I really want to work with before expanding into these others. And basically just taking my time. And I would recommend and highly recommend that if you want to get into this as well, really do the same. Take notes, compare things throughout the books, get a firm grasp on it before you do anything, because it is that potent. And I witnessed firsthand what happened with my brother and his former patron. When he started working with the Cabal and he put these sigils up, Ariok basically ran like a little bitch. And yeah, that was definitely interesting when Brian did that one and showed proof. I mean, he literally told me exactly what he heard, what he experienced, how the lights flickered, how these noises and these howlings of pain came over the place. He had to do it like 2 or 3 times, but still, once he got it in the right order, in the right directions, Ariok ran like a little bitch. And we're talking about a member of the hierarchy of the demonic realm. I mean, if these things are powerful enough to do that, that should tell you and put that question in your mind. How powerful are these workings in general when you get a full grasp of everything? Okay, when we end up being like Sumnus Dreadwood someday, being the ascended Grand Master of the Cabal. You know what I'm saying? If we ever end up like that and be half as wise as him, to experience half the things that he's experienced and put in these books along with Marcus, same exact thing. Just put that question in your mind. How powerful are these things really? And just keep in mind that just what's in these books is a fraction of what the Cabal has at their disposal, from what I understand. If that's not humbling, I don't know what is. I honestly don't. Just from what I've experienced in these things, plain and simple, very potent. The most potent form of magic that I've ever experienced firsthand. And if Brian was online right now, he would say the exact same thing. All right. So with that said, have a good one. This Dark Sorcerer is out. And until next time, enjoy.